Good. Hello, everyone. We are with Miss Tara today from Behind the Lens. I am proud to say she is my cousin, and we are going to start on a little bit about her testimony, her background, her story, and she lives in what part of Georgia do you live in?
I'm in Winder, Georgia, and sometimes it's easier to say like Athens, but we're about 15 miles outside of Athens,
Okay,
Georgia.
so you're about 8 hours away from me, correct? I think. Well, when
Yeah.
you lived in
So,
Atlanta, I think it was about 8 hours, something like
yeah,
that.
it's about 8. I could
Yeah,
probably get there in like 6.5 if I'm just like cruising.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we need to see each other. It's been a while, but this is the
Yeah.
best way we can do it right now. So we're
Really.
gonna get into it, guys. Let's see. Let's talk a little bit about your childhood. Me and you kind of were really tight during childhood when you could come down to Virginia.
Yeah.
What was life growing up with basically two families?
Yeah. So I would say probably the earliest I can remember like being like having two families. So we're cousins. My dad is your mom's brother. Um my parents, I have a young mom just like you did. So my mom got married to my dad when she was 19. And I want to preface this by just saying that talking about my story, this is not to like bash my parents at all because I think they did the best with what they knew at the time. And I think my mom got married super young to kind of get away from an abusive home and a situation. And I think if she knew better, she probably would have done better. And I think a lot of our parents would have done that. And I think as parents now, we're just trying to break the cycle. And so this is also why I try to tell my testimony. So my mom got married at 19, and then a year later, my dad, who was 10 years older than her. So he was a lot older. And I think he was just like a nice guy. He had a career, he was stable, he was a Marine. So I think she was just like, good family, a family guy, can get me away from my crazy parents. Um, then I came along a year later when she was 20. My dad was stationed in North Carolina. And then I don't think their marriage was very happy. And I think my dad was kind of a heavy drinker. And I'm not putting this all on my dad, obviously, because like I said, my mom was young. And at 3, my parents decided to split, but I'm pretty sure it was probably more my mom's decision. And she took me and moved back to Georgia. Um,
Now, is that where she was originally from, Georgia?
so she was originally from Alabama, but she
Okay.
ended up moving back to Georgia to, I think, move in with some friends.
Okay.
So that's kind of where I remember staying. And I think she just kind of like got some odd jobs as like serving or being a waitress
Hmm.
for a while, working some odd jobs while I was younger until she met my stepdad when I was around like 4.5, 5. So, and then Harry, my dad, just stayed in North Carolina, and then he continued to work on base and then worked overseas as well. So I did the whole back and forth thing as I was a kid.
Military thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Which was really hard. And I think that made me like super kind of an angry kid, and made me feel very kind of like angry and then also confused because like I said, my mom met my stepdad when I was about 4.5, 5, and then they ended up getting married when I was 6. My stepdad is great, they're still married.
Wow.
However, when I first met him, I he says I gave him hell. Because I wanted my parents to get back together,
Yeah,
and like
absolutely.
any normal kid from a divorced family.
Hmm.
So I think coming from a divorced family, I was a very insecure child. I was angry, I acted out. I
Is
was
that why? Oh,
bad.
sorry. Is that why you felt like different? Coming to, did you visit Harry a lot, or how was the visits? And you just felt different when you came to Virginia. Is that
Yeah.
correct? Okay.
Yeah, my visits weren't as much as I wanted for sure. I think I had to visit him in his off time, and also when I wasn't in school. So I think it was more like what I can remember and what I have of photos. It was more during Christmases and summers, and also I think being so far apart, I didn't get like the weekend visits like a lot of my other friends who had divorced parents got. So it was just Christmases and summers, and then when he was in states, like when if he wasn't overseas.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Now, was there, did you, when you first got, I guess you were feeling disconnected from, was it just your family or our family or just as a whole, I guess?
I think it was as a whole. I felt like I didn't really have a place to belong.
Yeah,
Sorry.
that's
I
okay. That's okay.
think I will say like my stepdad's family did a good job at like making me feel like one of their own. I have a baby brother um who my mom and my stepdad had when I was 7.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think as I got and they took me in as their own, like my stepdad's mom and aunt and uncle, like my aunt and uncle, because my stepdad had a sister and a brother. They did things with me, but I think as I got older, my brother would go on summer trips with them. And sorry, I
No,
wouldn't,
take your
I wouldn't,
time.
um, I
Take your
wouldn't go with them. Um,
time.
I wasn't invited. Um,
Hmm. Do we see everyone how childhood is so important for children because it carries with you for so many years and it doesn't get any easier. It actually might get harder for childhood trauma. As you can see, unfortunately, she felt like she wasn't a part of the family and she felt discluded from the family. So, with that being said, how did you, as you got older, how did you cope with things? Did you still feel the same, or you felt like you had one side of the family that truly loved you? So, I'm assuming that you were very emotional during that time.
yeah, I think as a kid, so when my brother would like go off on his trips with my stepfather's family, I would go to Alabama and spend time in the summer with my mom's parents, like my grandmother and my step grandfather. Um, I kind of leaned into that a lot. And so the only problem is, and this will probably come up later, but the only problem is when I started to become like a preteen, this is when I started getting abused by my step grandfather. So it was like, and I didn't tell anybody for a really long time. So it was like my brother was going off on these summer adventures with my grandmother and on my dad's side of the family or my stepdad's side of the family. And then I was going to Alabama and spending time with this side of the family, but like this stuff was going on. And so it was like, I think my mom was like, "Oh, you're having fun. You're going over here." But yeah, and I was because I had friends there, but also this stuff was going on. And I was so confused in my head because I'm like, this person's supposed to love me and protect me, but like, why is this happening to me? I don't understand,
Yeah,
that kind of thing. So, but I wanted to be with people who are supposed to love me, so it was a very confusing
absolutely.
time.
Very confusing time.
Yeah.
And how old were you then?
So I remember I was 12 when I finally told my mom, like 12. Yeah. So I know that I had to have been maybe like 8 or 9, I think, when it might have started. So yeah. Yeah, it was as early as I can remember,
Now,
but
you don't have to tell me exactly what happened, but was it physical abuse or sexual abuse or
it
both?
was sexual abuse. Yeah. Yeah. And it was like so confusing because I loved this person. I loved this man. He was such an important part of my life. And it's so confusing to a kid where you're like,
Absolutely.
you're supposed to protect me and love me and trust
Yeah.
me, to trust you.
Supposed to be
And
that shield. Hmm.
this is uncomfortable and this is wrong, but like I don't understand, and I knew that. And so like when I finally told my mother, you
Mhm.
know, and then she took care of it. Like we
Yeah.
reported it, and it
Yeah.
was just like, okay. That was when my world, I felt like, imploded.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's when that is actually after trauma has hit you with the first incidents and then the second one. As you got a little bit older, is there something that you decided to escape to or some kind of fantasy that it would make you feel better after all this trauma you had already endured?
I I don't really, I mean, I think I just kind of pulled into myself and um I don't know. I think I just started feeling I was insecure and I didn't want like the family to fall apart. And I um just was so worried about um everybody not liking me because of what was going to happen. Because
Mhm.
when everything blew up, we had to go to court and all that stuff. And then that was when the biggest betrayal happened, was when my grandmother came to court and defended my grandfather, and she walked out of our lives to defend him.
Mhm.
And so and I felt bad because I was like, is this my fault?
No, absolutely not. No.
And at the time I thought, she's leaving our lives because of me. Like what I thought for my
Yeah.
other cousins, that I thought it was my fault because I came forward and I said something, that my cousins don't have grandparents anymore. And I thought, she's leaving our lives. Like my uncles and my mom are losing their parents. And at the time, I thought it was because I said something, that they're leaving our lives. Like that, at the time, that's how I felt. And at the time, she was my best friend. My grandmother was. And then I felt, she's choosing this person over me. And I don't understand why.
That's
And at the
so
time, I
hard.
was also like still really upset because like I didn't get to see my dad very often. And um,
You just felt like you were just losing family members one
yeah,
at a time.
yeah. Um, it was just like it was a lot for a 12-year-old to go through.
Yeah.
It was a lot. So it was just like, and then I felt like even though my mom and my stepdad were there for me, and my stepdad was really upset with the whole situation and stuff like that, I just kind of wanted my dad to be there. And so it was a lot of loss and a lot of betrayal, and a lot of like abandonment. I just felt very abandoned.
Um, Now, once you got to getting older, was there any type of counseling or therapy that maybe mom put you through to help with emotions and
Yeah,
regulating yourself?
yeah,
So,
I did. I always joke that I feel like I've been in therapy like my whole life.
and I
um,
think I therapy is and I've advocated for therapy. I had told my viewers last week. I wish I had started therapy when I was 5 years old or 9 years old when my stepfather died. Just because it family went downhill after that. So
yeah,
I think therapy is probably the best thing for anyone that's going through childhood trauma and it's been years or whatever it may be.
yeah, for sure. I remember going by myself. I remember going with my mom. I Yes, I definitely went to therapy to talk it out, to talk about it, to talk about my feelings.
Mhm.
I could not remember. I can probably tell you what we talked about, but
Yeah.
um, but um, I it had been so many years that I just like, I don't even know. It's like just I do think I've taken so many different like coping techniques and
Mhm.
some healing techniques and things like that. Um, I think as I got older and I started getting into college, I started using different things to help cope.
Were
to
you on, I'm sorry, were you on any type of medications for anxiety, depression? Were you diagnosed with anything at that time?
Um, yeah, no, I was never diagnosed with anything. I think I sought things to help
Hmm.
me feel better about myself. And I think, and I know I sought out like attention and things like that for
Hmm.
sure. Um,
Yeah,
and then when I got to college, I definitely sought out like, I drank alcohol and I know that's when I smoked weed for the first time. And
so to
then
numb
I
the
say,
pain.
yeah, to numb the pain and then to numb like thinking about things that like made me upset or anything like that. I also became overly promiscuous just because I was like I wanted boys to like me and things like that. And then I would say probably when I was in my mid 20s, I this also stems back to when I was in high school, I had a back injury.
Mhm.
It was my when I first ever started taking opioid pain medication. I got prescribed that. So that was when I first ever tried it and like actually felt like how good it feels to like not feel anything.
Feel anything. Hmm.
So when I would have that pain medication prescribed to me for back pain was when I was like, oh, I can also take this and not feel anything mentally. So later on in my early to mid 20s, I could take advantage of the pain medication to take it for not just pain, but for numbing my whole body. And then I didn't realize like how detrimental that could actually end up being. So when I started getting into my like later 20s before I started having kids and got married, I it started getting out of control, like where I would look anywhere to get it. I would go to like pain doctors and get prescriptions, and then I would just look and see if any friends had it that I could get it from. I would buy from dealers. I would look in people's medicine cabinets if they had it. I just would ask people like, "Hey, do you have these?" And if they were like, "Yeah," I'm like, "You're not using them? Can I have them?" They were like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
sure." Um, and then at that point, I did not realize like how bad it was.
Now, when
So,
you say how bad, like, did you at that point feel like, okay, I think I'm addicted, or something happened to make you think that, okay, I need to stop, or
no, I think not something bad to make it stop, but it just probably I knew I was addicted. Like I knew that I was like I know this is I knew that like in my head, I was like, okay, you really like these. This is probably an addiction. But I was telling myself like, you can stop because I could
mhm,
go I could stop and be like and not be sick.
mhm,
I wasn't to that point yet where I was like dying to find a fix. I could go to work and I'd be all right.
could
Um,
function?
I could function. It didn't get to that point where I was like feeling sick and stuff until like later on.
Mhm,
And I will say that point got to where I met my husband in when I was around 29 and we got pregnant, got married. I was using still. He
mhm.
had no idea. Um, and at the time, it was prescribed by a doctor. It wasn't like illegal. And I was going to a pain management clinic. So they were writing me an absurd amount. I was probably like, it was a month's worth. So it was probably like 120 a month or something like that.
Mhm.
But I was going through them way too fast. And then I would run out and then I would find somebody who was not using as many and then she would to make extra money, she would sell like some of
Mhm.
hers. And like I said, Pete had no idea all of this was going on.
Did he
Um,
see any cognitive issues with you? Were you falling asleep really quickly, or just kind of in a zombie mood?
no, because what I used them for was for
Mhm.
energy. Like they
Gotcha.
did not make me zonk out. They didn't make me like sloppy.
Mhm.
For me, I felt like they gave me energy. Like I would be able to function. I'd be like, all
Mhm.
right, let's get it done. Like I liked how they made me feel.
Mhm.
Um, I didn't eat as much. Like I could get up and like feel good. Like let's clean the house. Like let's go. Like
Yeah.
it was good for
And
me. And like
unfortunately, it's so sad because mothers with more than one, two, three children, that's that's a good thing as much as
Mhm.
it's a bad thing because you want
Yeah.
that energy to be able to do the dishes and do the laundry and be productive
Hmm.
when you're on that. So it's kind of like it's a drug and it's an addiction because you want to be able to function like that every day and it
Yeah.
just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So I could
Yeah.
I could see anybody getting addicted to something like that.
Yeah. And it's not like, and that's the thing, is like I feel like some people think like, oh, okay. And I guess everybody responds to things like that differently because I
Medications
think,
differently,
yeah.
correct.
And I think a lot of people think, okay, opioids, like you take them and you're like, and
Yeah.
yeah, you can be. I think like I said, everyone does it differently. But for me, I felt like my situation at the time was I had an 18-month-old child, I had a newborn. This is when it got at its worst. We had moved to this house. We had one car. My husband was working in the city and we lived in the country. And Pete was working um 45 minutes away from the house, yet was driving in Atlanta traffic. And I was left here with a baby that was screaming and had colic all day long. And I like had no new friends. I had nobody to talk to. And I had two little babies to take care of. And
How overwhelming for you.
and I
And
felt
in
like
your
I had
family, your mom or no?
my
Yeah.
mom lives like 20 minutes away, but she was like working.
Yeah.
And she would come over when she could. And I'm not sitting here making up like
Oh
excuses
no.
for me, but I felt like I when my addiction got to the worst points, um, when I was taking the most, I was like drowning. I was
Mm.
drowning.
Mm-hmm.
I was like,
Couldn't get out of it.
I felt like I was dying. And I was like, I was not neglecting my kids. I swear, like I was like not like neglecting my kids. I was never neglecting my kids. Like I wasn't like the mom that was like passed out on the couch with my kids being ignored or not fed. It wasn't like that. Um, I never ever did not put my kids first. Like it was never like that. It was never like I never drained our bank account. I never did not like take care of my children. It was never like that. But it was me not taking care of myself and me feeling so overwhelmed and me feeling so full of just like mom guilt and mom shame and just like alone and so lonely and like trapped in this house and not being able to like calm my baby who was like screaming, and I felt like such a horrible mother because I was like, why is my baby screaming? And then my other baby who like won't sleep and won't nap, and like I just was like I was drowning.
Yeah.
And for the medication, just like literally just I felt like it was the only thing that like I had to look forward to, like get me up in the morning. And I know it was wrong, but it was just like at the time it was like the only thing that I felt
Mhm.
like could save me at the time. um until finally one day I made the mistake of trying to fill two prescriptions at two different doctors. And I actually had a very sweet doctor who I'd been seeing for years call me on it. And she knew I was a mom and she knew that I had two little babies at home. And she's like, "What are you doing, Tara?" She's like, "We need to get you some help." And she's like, "You have two little babies at home." And she's like, "I'm worried about you." She's like, "Number one, I could lose my license because, I see that you filled a prescription here and now you're trying to fill this prescription." And she's like, "This is illegal." And she's like, "I've been treating you for a long time, you and your mom, and you guys are family." And she's like, "I do you have a problem?" And I was like, "Yes." I was like, "I need help. I don't know what to do." And she's like, "I want you to go see my husband who helps people who have addiction problems. He's also a doctor." And um and she's like, "He will help you wean off the pills in a safe way and get your life back." And so that's what I did. But I
Did
had to
your
like
I'm sorry. Did your husband know that this was happening, or is he still in the dark about?
But at that point, he didn't know. Um, but he was about to.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I had to tell him after that
I
because I
give you a
thought it
tissue, but you're
was
8 hours away.
everything. Thank you. Yeah. So yeah. Um
Um,
and this was back in like Oliver was born in June of 2015, and this was in like I always say around I think it was like August or September of 2015. So this was a couple months after Oliver was born. So then I had to come out and tell Pete what was going on, and he
uh,
was not happy, but he supported me. He
absolutely.
stood by me, and I went and saw Dr. Terlong, who I still see to this day, and he helped me get on Suboxone, which helped me come off safely, and um, he helped save my life and get my life back, and I'm grateful for that. So
Uh, I feel like people are literally placed in other people's lives to help them, to advocate, to counsel. And it's so crazy that the pharmacist, the pharmacist of all people, called you, and her husband was an addiction counselor. Is that correct?
yeah, she's was my doctor. She was a
Oh, your
doctor.
doctor. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
Dr. Gale, like she was a family doctor we'd been seeing, and then her husband is also a physician. Um, so the fact that she was like, "What are you doing?" and she knows that I was like, she's like, "You're a young mother with two little kids," and yeah, um,
Now,
yeah,
after your counseling and helping with Suboxone, did you ever have any cravings? Did you ever feel like, oh, if I could just go back to having a hard day, I'm really just craving, taking something. Did you ever go through that? I mean, it's an addiction, so.
yeah. It's definitely something that I think every addict goes through, where you have moments that come up. Like I will, I've had two more babies since then, and I'm not gonna lie, like, going through the motions of, being in the hospital and like having them talk about pain management. It's always like circling in your head, but I've been very blessed to just like stay the route, just take the Tylenol and take like the Toradol or whatever they give you, like the muscle stuff or whatever, like the non-narcotic pain medication. I make sure that I'm honest on my medical records, like, I'm a recovering addict, like, you know um to be like non-narcotic medication, please. Um if I ever watch movies, and I can feel triggered sometimes by seeing somebody take pills or whatever, but I just make sure that, it's like, what you're watching, like, you've been there, like, you just have to center yourself and just, but it's, I think, and with anything, just like people who quit smoking and watch something and you see somebody light up and you're like, oh,
Oh, yeah.
so
Thankfully,
it's,
I've never smoked, but I can see where anybody that does smoke, "Ooh, that looks good, ready for a
yeah,
cigarette," and it's
yeah,
really hard for discipline when it comes to something like that. It's
yeah,
hard for anyone, and I
anything.
really applaud you for that. That's a warrior standpoint for you to come from a deep spot to now. And if, what role do your children play in your recovery? Do they, you just look at them and just be like, it could have been worse?
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, I look at them and I see, um, first of all, I am grateful for, um, that's one of the
Your
things that
saving grace, right?
yeah, I'm so grateful for them because I know that there's people out there who, struggle with addiction every day, and they have children, and they don't realize how blessed they are. And they, and addiction is so hard. It's so hard. And not everybody can be strong enough to deal with it. And that's also why I'm like a huge advocate for people who struggle with addiction because it is really hard. And a lot of people are like, it's a choice. And I'm like, no, it's a disease. And people, it's like, I'm grateful that I'm able to like fight it every day because I get to spend this life with my kids. And then I'm able to have empathy for people who still fight it every day. And I'm able to be proud of my friends and family and people who have overcome it. Um, my husband lost his brother to addiction like 2 years ago to an overdose. And
Mm.
that sucks. And I have friends who work in recovery. I have a friend who works in drug courts. And then I have a friend who works at a recovery center and like a methadone clinic, and but it's a recovery center who that also does like counseling and in Athens. And it's just I love that there are places like that. And I think that there's such a stigma on addiction that it's like bad and like you're gross and you're shameful. And it's like, I hate that because it's just as it's
It's almost, I think everything ties to mental health.
yes.
Um, I feel like, and I've always said it starts at a young age.
Mhm.
And that's why it's so important for when people are younger for them to have a great childhood or even recover and fix it from that childhood at our early stage. Because if you don't fix it later on, it's going to end up biting you in
Yeah.
some kind of way of coping,
Yeah.
just to numb it.
Yes.
So I I
Yeah.
praise you for going to get that help and making sure that your babies are taken care of. And I just, I'm so glad that you are family and you're advocating for addiction and letting everybody know that you can have help. And if you relapse, go back and do it again. You fall off that saddle, you get back on again.
Yeah.
Um, so I just really want to thank you for sharing your story. I'm
Of
hoping
course.
it goes worldwide. And if anybody ever needs some help, hey, I've got your number.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much out there. And I feel like it goes hand in hand with so many different things, like, anxiety and depression and all of that. And,
Yes, Dee.
you know, um, there's so much out
Abuse.
there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
and that was the reason why I started this podcast. So many people hide behind closed doors, and people really don't know what has happened in their lives. And for people to share their story, I think it's just extraordinary.
yeah.
And if you could leave everyone with one statement or one closing, what would you say to people?
I would say, just make sure that you are always choosing gratitude over the negativity. There's so much negativity in this world. And I think that if we are waking up, the first thing that we do is just look around us and count our blessings. I think that that's one way to beat anxiety and depression around us. And I feel like the Lord tells us that as well. He speaks of it in the Bible so many times about bringing our anxieties to Him and laying it at His feet. And I think beating those things, and anxiety is so big right now with our children, with this generation. And beating that, I think, is basically just turning it around and looking at what we can be grateful for. And if each day we wake up in the morning and we name one thing that we're grateful for, then we turn that negativity around and we look at it in a positive light. And I feel like that's just one of the things that I try to do every day is just like think, what am I grateful for today?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, with that note, guys, we are going to end things. Tara, thank you so much for sharing everything with us and stay tuned, guys. Bye bye.